Now that we've taken a look at the dashboard, I'd like to take you through a specific physician profile, so go ahead and click back on Home. Once you're home, click on the Physician Profiles icon or the Physicians tab in the top toolbar. This will take you to the physician search screen, which we've seen before. Here you can type in the physician name or ID and then click Find Physician. And when the appropriate physician comes up, click on the Profile button. Once you enter a physician profile, you'll be defaulting to the Physician tab, which will show you the name, ID, specialty, and the facilities at which this physician practices. And this is based on the physician roster information that we receive from each hospital. A quick note when looking at physician profiles. When you immediately search for a specific physician or a group of physicians, the comparison that you will see will default to either that physician or the group of physicians being compared to the system average or the hospital average, depending on how many facilities your site has. Making sure we're looking at an appropriate sample of data, I changed the time period to a year. Then let's take a look at the Overview tab. The Overview tab is a great way to get a look at the general practice of this physician. So what I'm going to do is review each of these metrics on the screen. The first one here, Case Mix Index, or CMI, is an index developed by CMS looking at the averages of DRG weights based on the DRGs that this physician treats. So the idea here is to give you an idea of the case complexity of this physician. Now this metric in particular is a little bit different than the other ones in that it is comparing this physician to his or her specialty as opposed to the system or the hospital average. So that one's a little bit different. So you can see here with the Case Mix Index for this physician, his result is 1.45 compared to a specialty average of 1.32. So he's just above the mean. Additionally, we're looking at 214 cases where this physician was the attending physician. So important to note, when you go to a profile, you're always going to look at the physician's attending cases. Now you can change it to consulting cases, which I'll show you in a bit. But for now, we're going to look at the attending cases. So moving on, we can also look at patient age. You can see here this physician's average patient age is 60, which is right on the mean. Next, looking at average severity level and average risk for mortality, these two metrics tend to be correlated. And as you can see, they are here. These are based, again, using those APR DRGs and the severity levels I mentioned at the very beginning of the session. The four severity levels, minor, moderate, major, and extreme. You'll be able to see here in a drill down with the average severity level where those physicians' cases fall out. So it looks like this physician's cases with 2.22 compared to a system average of 2.29 are a little bit less severe than the rest of the system. Next, looking at percentage of surgical DRGs, you can see here that there were 36 out of 214 cases that had a surgical DRG associated with them, which is about 16.82% compared to system average of 15.89%. The idea here being we want to get an idea of how complex these cases are to see where else we might want to look at in the site. Do we want to look at complications? Do we want to look at charges? What sorts of indicators on this page are you going to point you to those other metrics? Next, looking at attending and consulting status, you can see here there were 214 cases where this physician was the attending physician, and he was a consulting physician on one case. If your facility captures performing physician, we can capture that here. Next, we can look at the top 10 consulting physicians with whom this physician consulted with. So you can look at each physician and the number of cases. And actually, for this top physician here, cardiovascular diseases, you can look at the 48 cases where he or she was a consultant. Very helpful when taking a look at referral patterns. Lastly, we're looking here at cases per payer type, so you can get an idea of the payer mix. For this physician specifically, it looks like there was a pretty good balance between Medicare and managed care. One navigational note, on each of these metrics you'll find a bar chart icon at the bottom of each one and a little blue question mark. The bar chart icon, if you click on that, allows you to trend the metric over time. The little blue question mark allows you to bring up the online help to get a more specific definition of that metric, as well as information on how it's adjusted, what the comparison is, what the color dial is representing, etc.